I'm very pleased to be here and to see this event. I've been hearing about the construction of the manifesto and the construction of this group DiEM25 for a long time, and have in fact taken part in some elements of it. But I want to just very quickly give a slightly different perspective to which I think other speakers have given. Europe is a country, it's an interesting question. Europe is a conglomeration, a grouping of more than 500 million people. It is the most numerous such grouping in the world when combined with its GDP. So it has a significantly greater GDP than the United States, significantly greater than China, significantly greater than India. And yet, what do we see happening in Europe? Right now, as we speak, the United Kingdom and Italy are planning to invade Libya, planning to invade the coastal areas of Libya. Italy is going to provide ground troops. The United Kingdom is going to provide air support. How did that come to be? How is it that that is not a European question? The refugee movements that have come into Europe, which have destabilized the Schengen area, which have seen the rise of xenophobia and the toxic nationalism. How did that come to be? It came to be because of the wars in North Africa. Some European countries took part in those wars, took part in them with the United States, with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with other interests. But did those wars ultimately fulfill European interests? The answer is no, they did not fulfill European interests. They introduced chaos in Europe. How is it that the largest country in the world economically, 500 million people, could not steer its way through its own interests? Similarly, Yanis has spoken about the economic situation in Europe. How is it that Europe has become economically sclerotic? When it looks like a child to the United States or the IMF to provide some kind of leadership, when it can't solve its own economic problems. The problem for Europe is its lack of integration, its lack of unity, its lack of coherence. The small amount of unity and coherence that Europe has now evolved out of the situation of the Second World War. It came about because of strategic and economic factors, but there was something else. There was a dream. There was a dream for what Europe could be, more than the strategic realities, more than the economic realities. And that is a dream that Europe has lost. And that is the lack of that dream is producing the fragmentation and the inability for Europe to govern itself that we see. It is permitting rogue states in Europe, states that compromise the genuine interests of European people in a severe way, getting involved in misadventures in Northern Africa with the United States, spying on European institutions such as Sweden and the United Kingdom with the United States, subverting the rule of law within Europe, something that I have experienced personally, and of course people that I need to care about, potential sources have experienced personally. That collapse in the dream of Europe is something that cannot be permitted. We must fight against it, because otherwise winter is coming, war is coming to Europe. The end of Europe is coming to Europe, and either we must seize the day, and divert Europe from the course that it is on, or else we will have to suffer through a very harsh night. if we do, if that night comes, if we are not able to govern ourselves according to the reality that we face, then we must be prepared. We must be prepared to rebuild, to reconstruct a new Europe after that period. But there will be no chance of rebuilding unless they're ready. So either direction, either we get our act together and prepare to prevent the disintegration of Europe, we create a dream of a new Europe so that it does not disintegrate, so that the concerns and fears of Europeans can be satisfied by Europe in a political manner, so that they do not have to revert to nationalism, so they do not have to revert to alliances with the United States, so they do not drift off from the center of the European project. Or we manage to prepare for what is going to be a very long night. I would just like to add one more thing. Another way in which Europe has been unable to govern itself is the negotiations for the TTP and another major agreement called the TISA. The person put in charge of the European negotiations is who? Cecilia Malmström. Cecilia Malmström from Sweden. Cecilia Malmström, who wrote a book recently together with Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, who's trying to prosecute me, amongst other things, who's been involved in prosecuting more whistleblowers together with Obama than all previous administrations combined. Cecilia Malmström is a committed transatlanticist. What kind of Europe, what kind of European structure puts in charge of negotiating the new economic regime that Europe and the United States is to share, a new legal regime which Europe and the United States is to share? Who puts that in the hand of a committed transatlanticist? That is not the good way to get a good deal. Europe will not have a good deal unless it acts, unless it manages to provide a dream that people can believe in and regain its coherency. So either we must face the realities of seizing the night and the day after, or we can act now and build this project, push for a new European constitution, and ultimately seize the day. I've just been handed a note with some breaking news. This is entirely on my own personal circumstance. I hope you don't mind me taking a moment for it. But the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Prince Zeid Al Hussein, who is in charge of the UNHRC, has just denounced Sweden and the UK for not obeying the law in relation to the verdict it recently gave on me. Human rights law, which has been most significantly propagated by Europe. Treaty law is binding law. It is not some passing fancy that a state can apply sometimes and not in others.
Julian, I hope you can stay with us. Maybe you can't, maybe you can. I hope you can for the remainder of tonight. By the way, this is not a video. He's there. Let me just relate to you the one message that came out loud and clear in today's sessions earlier today. I will simply repeat it with no analysis. None is necessary. Free Julian Assange, amnesty for everyone who has fought for transparency, freedom for Chelsea Manning, and amnesty for Edward Snowden.